A billionaire pretends to be asleep to test his cleaning lady's daughter and freezes when he sees what she does. The safe was wide open, displaying piles of cash that represented more than most people earn in a lifetime. Alexander Harrison remained motionless in his leather armchair, breathing steadily, his eyes half open, watching every move. Little Elena, only 7 years old, entered the office holding her mother Carmen's hand. The two had arrived for the night shift, as they had done for the past 3 years at Alexander's company in downtown Seattle. The girl wore her miniature pink gloves, a gift Carmen had bought to make her daughter feel useful while accompanying her during school holidays. Alexander had planned this moment meticulously. After discovering that his business partner had embezzled $4 million, his trust in humanity was shattered. At 47, he had built an empire, but now he wondered if there was a single honest person left in the world. The test was simple. Leave the safe open with a fortune in plain sight and see if anyone could resist temptation. Carmen began cleaning the bookshelves, focused on her work. Elena, curious like all children, approached the table where Alexander was pretending to sleep. Her little eyes sparkled at the sight of so much money, more than she had ever seen in her life. Alexander held his breath, preparing to witness yet another disappointment. But what happened next left him completely paralyzed. Elena didn't touch the money. Instead, she noticed the bills were disorganized and began arranging them carefully, separating them by denomination and stacking them with the precision of a little accountant. Her small hands worked with impressive delicacy, as if she were handling something sacred. "Mommy," she whispered, "Mr. Alexander's money was all messy. I tidied it up just like you taught me to do with our coins at home." Carmen turned quickly, startled. "Elena, you can't touch the boss's things." "But it was messy, Mom. He'll be happy when he wakes up and sees everything tidy." Alexander felt something he hadn't experienced in years. His throat tightened with emotion. This child, who had probably never had more than $10 in her hands, had organized a fortune instead of taking a single penny. More than that, she made a point of telling her mother what she had done, with the innocent transparency of someone who has nothing to hide. What Alexander didn't know was that this simple gesture of honesty from a 7-year-old was about to trigger a series of events that would not only change his own life, but reveal truths about prejudice, kindness, and the true value of people that he could never have imagined. In the weeks that followed, Alexander continued observing Carmen and Elena discreetly. He discovered that Carmen worked double shifts, cleaning at his company at night and at a medical clinic in the morning. Elena always accompanied her, doing homework in waiting rooms or playing quietly while her mother worked. What impressed Alexander most was the education Carmen gave her daughter. "We always return what isn't ours, even if no one is watching," he heard her teach the little girl. "Our honesty is worth more than any money in the world." Carmen had grown up in foster care after losing her parents at age 9. She struggled to graduate high school while working but was never able to afford college. At 23, she became pregnant with Elena, and the father disappeared when he found out. Since then, she had been supporting her daughter alone, refusing any assistance she considered charity. Alexander began secretly increasing Carmen's salary, instructing the personnel department to justify it as a category adjustment. But his good deed did not go unnoticed by the wrong eyes. Vincent Sterling, vice president of operations and a 55-year-old man accustomed to inherited privileges, noticed the financial movement during a meeting. "Alexander, why are we wasting extra money on cleaning staff, especially on that specific employee?" "Carmen is an excellent professional," Alexander replied dryly. "Excellent?" Vincent laughed dismissively. "Alexander, you need to understand where these people belong. Give them an extra coin and they'll soon be asking for the whole vault. It's in their nature." Alexander felt anger rising, but kept his composure. Vincent was the son of one of the company's founders and held significant shares. His prejudiced opinions had always been tolerated by the board because of his financial influence. "Besides," Vincent continued, "she brings that child here. That's inappropriate. What kind of mother exposes a child to a corporate environment? Clearly, she doesn't have proper family structure." That evening, Alexander witnessed something that made him furious. Vincent had stayed late at work and confronted Carmen in the hallway. "Listen carefully," he said threateningly. "I know you're getting more money than you deserve. I don't know what kind of favors you're doing, but it's going to stop." Carmen turned pale. "Sir, I don't understand." "Of course you don't understand. People like you never do. You just take what you're given and keep quiet. And get that child out of here. This isn't a daycare center." Elena hid behind her mother, frightened by the aggressive tone. Carmen hugged her daughter protectively. "Sir, I'm just doing my job. Your job is to clean and be invisible, nothing else." Alexander watched everything from his office, feeling something he hadn't felt in years, a purifying anger. Vincent had crossed a line that could not be uncrossed. Not only had he insulted Carmen, but he had frightened an innocent child whose only crime was accompanying her mother to work. That night, Alexander made a decision. It was no longer enough to stand by and watch. Vincent Sterling had revealed his true nature, and Alexander had the resources to do something about it. What Vincent didn't know was that Alexander had recorded the entire conversation. The security system that Vincent himself had approved to monitor employees now captured his own poisonous words. But Alexander wanted more than just a recording. He wanted Vincent to destroy himself publicly, in such a humiliating way that he would never show his face in business circles again. The next morning, Alexander made a call Vincent could never have imagined. "Daniel, I need your services again," he said to Daniel Chen, a former FBI investigator and expert in corporate cases. The two had worked together during the embezzlement case, and Daniel knew every dark corner of the business world. "What kind of trouble now, Alexander?" "The kind involving institutional racism and abuse of power. I need solid evidence against Vincent Sterling." Daniel laughed on the other end. "That spoiled brat? That'll be easier than taking candy from a baby. Guys like him always leave trails." Meanwhile, Vincent intensified his psychological terror campaign against Carmen. He showed up at Human Resources with fabricated violations, claiming she was consistently late and that Elena was causing disturbances. Rebecca Martinez, the HR director, knew something was wrong. Carmen had never been late in 2 years on the job. When she questioned the claims, Vincent interrupted arrogantly. "I'm the vice president. My word should be enough." Alexander watched everything through security cameras, recording every word. The system Vincent had installed to monitor productivity now captured his own lies and abuses of authority. On Wednesday, Vincent crossed an even more dangerous line. He intercepted Carmen in the parking garage when she arrived with Elena for the night shift. "Listen carefully," he said, blocking her path. "I know you're doing more than cleaning to earn that extra money. What kind of special services are you providing?" Carmen trembled with anger and fear. "Sir, what you're implying is—" "I'm implying that people like you always have a price, and I'm curious to know what yours is." Elena hid behind her mother, whispering, "Mommy, why is that man being mean?" "Don't worry, sweetheart," Carmen replied with dignity that contrasted with Vincent's venom. "Some adults are unhappy and try to make others unhappy too." Vincent laughed cruelly. "Unhappy? I have more money in this wallet than you two will ever see in your entire lives." Alexander watched the recording that night with controlled rage that grew with each replay. Daniel had arrived with a preliminary dossier confirming his suspicions. Vincent had a history of bullying Black and Latino employees at previous jobs, 3 labor lawsuits settled out of court, always the same pattern of systematic humiliation until people quit. "Why was he never punished?" Alexander asked. "Daddy paid for silence and transferred his little boy to other companies when things got hot," Daniel explained. "Vincent Sterling is a professional parasite." Alexander studied every page of the report. Vincent wasn't just prejudiced, he was a serial predator who used his position and money to torture vulnerable people. "Daniel, I want everything on him. Phone calls, emails, social media, behavior patterns, everything." "Alexander, are you planning something big?" "I'm planning justice." Rebecca Martinez approached Alexander discreetly. "Mr. Harrison, I need to talk about Vincent Sterling. He's pushing to fire Carmen, but I don't have legal grounds. I suspect something personal is going on." Alexander feigned surprise. "What kind of pressure?" "He claims she's violating regulations, but when I check, there's no evidence. Yesterday he suggested that people like her shouldn't have access to administrative areas after hours. People like her? Alexander repeated. Rebecca hesitated. Sir, I believe there are discriminatory implications in his conduct. It was the opening Alexander needed. Rebecca, if you suspect discrimination, document everything officially. Open an internal investigation. But he's the vice president, and I'm the president. Document everything. That night, Alexander implemented phase 2 of his plan. He instructed IT to install additional microphones in areas where Vincent intimidated employees. Officially, it was a security system upgrade. In reality, it was a digital trap. Friday night, when Vincent thought he was alone, he made a phone call Alexander heard through the audio system. Dad, that situation we discussed. Yes, the black cleaning lady. She's becoming a problem. I need you to use your contacts to create legal difficulties for her. Suspicion of theft, documentation problems, anything that forces her to resign. His father's voice came through the speaker. Vincent, are you sure you're not overreacting? A mere cleaning lady? Dad, it's a matter of principle. If we allow these people to feel comfortable, soon they'll demand rights they don't deserve. Better to handle this before other similar employees start getting ideas. Alexander recorded every word, feeling cold satisfaction. Vincent had just confessed to conspiracy to fabricate evidence and explicit racial discrimination. Daniel appeared at Alexander's office Monday morning with a briefcase full of evidence. Alexander, you won't believe what I found. Vincent has posts on private social media that are supremacist manifestos, conversations in closed groups where he and other executives make jokes about black employees. There's more. I discovered he used his father's influence to sabotage black candidates in other companies' selection processes. There's a 15-year pattern of systematic discriminatory behavior. Alexander examined screenshots where Vincent wrote things like, "Need to keep those people in their place, and the only way to deal with them is to show who's boss from the start." Daniel, this is gold. Wait, there's more. He's planning something against Carmen this week. I intercepted messages. He's organizing a staged theft. Alexander felt blood drain from his face. What do you mean? He's going to plant something expensive in her cleaning supplies, then discover it publicly. He'll call police, make a scene, humiliate her in front of everyone. At that moment, Alexander realized Vincent had completely underestimated who he was dealing with. The man thought he was facing a distracted boss and defenseless employee. He had no idea he was walking into a trap 15 years in the making. Alexander looked at Daniel with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Perfect. Let him try. The further he goes, the harder he'll fall. The following Tuesday, Vincent executed his plan with arrogant confidence. At 8 p.m., when Carmen and Elena arrived for their shift, he had already planted a $15,000 Rolex in the cleaning cart. Perfect, Vincent muttered, watching from security cameras. I'll give her 15 minutes to start work, then catch her red-handed. What Vincent didn't know was that Alexander watched from upstairs on high-resolution monitors. Daniel was strategically positioned in the parking lot with a van full of recording equipment. 3 investigative journalists discreetly contacted by Alexander waited outside. Daniel, he just planted the watch, Alexander reported via radio. Activate additional recordings. Confirmed. All extra cameras are working. We have angles he doesn't know exist. At 8:20, Vincent descended to where Carmen quietly cleaned while Elena did homework. He brought 2 security guards and pretended to conduct routine inspection. Mrs. Carmen, Vincent said with false courtesy, I need to check your cleaning supplies. We've had reports of missing items. Carmen stopped, confused. Mr. Sterling, I don't understand. Standard procedure, Vincent lied, walking directly to the cart where he'd planted the watch. Ah, how interesting. What's this? He removed the Rolex with exaggerated theatricality. Carmen Gonzalez, this is a $15,000 watch that went missing from Mr. Harrison's office yesterday. Carmen turned pale. I've never seen this watch in my life. Of course not, Vincent said with poisonous sarcasm. It just appeared in your cart, didn't it? Elena stood from her chair, frightened. Mommy, what's happening? Be quiet, child, Vincent ordered brutally. Your mother will have to explain how expensive items magically appear in her materials. One security guard had picked up the phone to call police, exactly as Vincent instructed. Police, We need to report theft in progress. That's when Alexander appeared at the door with Daniel and 3 people Vincent didn't immediately recognize. Vincent, Alexander said with calmness that made Vincent's blood run cold, I think you should hang up that phone. Alexander, I'm glad you're here. We caught your employee stealing your watch. Alexander laughed, a cold sound echoing through the silent office. My watch, Vincent? I've worn an Apple Watch for 5 years. I've never owned a Rolex. Confidence on Vincent's face began wavering. What? What are you saying? I'm saying we just recorded you planting a watch you bought this morning in Carmen's cart to frame her. Daniel approached with a tablet showing high-definition footage of Vincent placing the watch 40 minutes earlier. Angle 1, he said, swiping to the next video. Angle 2. Angle 3. We even have your face clearly visible when you check that no one's watching. Vincent tried to speak, but Alexander interrupted. Oh, but there's so much more. Daniel, show him the scrapbook we put together. Daniel opened a digital file and began projecting contents onto a portable screen. Screenshots of Vincent's racist posts in private groups appeared first. Need to keep these people in their place, Daniel read aloud. That's yours, isn't it, Vincent? Carmen gasped, covering her mouth. Vincent tried approaching the screen, but Alexander blocked him. Here's your conversation planning to create legal difficulties for Carmen, Daniel continued. And here's your confession that it's a matter of principle to prevent these people from feeling comfortable. Where did you get this? Vincent stammered, sweat beading his forehead. Security system you approved yourself, remember? Including that call to your conspiracy-mongering father about fabricating evidence against an innocent employee. One journalist identified herself. Jennifer Walsh, Channel 7 News. Mr. Sterling, would you comment on this evidence of systematic racial discrimination and conspiracy to fabricate criminal evidence? Vincent finally understood the magnitude of what was happening. You can't use that. I have rights. Of course you do, Alexander said calmly. You have the right to remain silent because anything you say will be used against you, not just by police already on their way to arrest you for conspiracy and attempted defamation, but by the press, company board, and Carmen's lawyers. Daniel continued the presentation. We also have records of your 15 years of systematic discrimination in previous jobs, 3 lawsuits hushed up by Daddy, 8 Black and Latino employees you harassed until they quit. And best of all, Alexander interrupted, we have recordings of you on cameras you didn't know existed, including threats to Carmen in the parking garage and your disgusting insinuations. The second reporter stepped forward with a camera. Mr. Sterling, how do you respond to accusations that you used your position to systematically persecute minority employees? Vincent tried to run, but Daniel blocked the exit. Oh, I almost forgot, Daniel said with a smile. Your bank account was frozen an hour ago, your family's been notified of the evidence contents, and the company board called an emergency meeting for tomorrow morning to discuss your dismissal and possible legal action. Carmen, who had remained in shock throughout the revelation, finally found her voice. Mr. Harrison, did you know this was going to happen? Carmen, I knew Vincent was prejudiced, but I didn't imagine he'd try destroying you with false evidence. When I discovered his plan, I decided to stop watching passively. Elena approached Alexander timidly. Mr. Alexander, will the bad man stop scaring Mommy now? Alexander knelt to the girl's height. Yes, sweetheart, he'll never bother you again. Desperate, Vincent made one last pathetic attempt. Alexander, we can settle this between gentlemen. My family has significant investments in the company. Had, Alexander corrected, until 20 minutes ago when the board voted unanimously to force purchase of all Sterling family shares. Congratulations, you've managed to ruin not only your career but your family's fortune. Police arrived at that moment, but it wasn't Carmen who was arrested. Vincent Sterling, Detective Harris said, you're under arrest for conspiracy to fabricate evidence, harassment, racial discrimination, and attempted defamation. As they handcuffed Vincent, he looked at Carmen with hatred that finally revealed his true nature. This won't stand. My family has influence. Had, Daniel corrected again, until this morning when evidence was leaked to all major media outlets. Your father called 2 hours ago asking to be removed from the company's contact list. The third reporter approached Carmen. Miss Gonzalez, How does it feel to know you've been completely vindicated and your persecutor will face full consequences? Carmen looked at Elena, then at Alexander. I feel gratitude. Gratitude that there are people willing to fight for justice even when it would be easier to ignore it. Alexander watched Vincent being led away in handcuffs, knowing the man faced not only prison but complete social and financial ruin. His reputation was destroyed forever, his family had disowned him, and his career ended so humiliatingly it would become legendary in business circles. Carmen, Alexander said, would you like to discuss a promotion? As Carmen smiled through tears and Elena applauded without fully understanding what happened, it was clear justice had been served so devastatingly it would be remembered for generations, proving that underestimating human decency can be the most costly mistake anyone can make. 6 months later, Carmen Gonzalez walked through Mitchell Enterprises halls, no longer as a cleaning lady, but as Director of Human Resources, a position Alexander created especially for her after discovering her business degree she'd never been able to complete. Her first decision was implementing a scholarship program for employees' children, with Elena as the first beneficiary. "Mommy, can I show Mr. Alexander my new drawing?" asked Elena, now 7, running through the office that had become her second home. She attended the best private school in Seattle and already spoke about wanting to be a lawyer. To help people like Mr. Alexander helped us. Alexander smiled, observing their lives' complete transformation. His company had won awards for inclusion and diversity, becoming a national benchmark for hiring Black people in executive positions. The Fair Chance program, created honoring Carmen's case, had already benefited over 200 families. Meanwhile, Vincent Sterling lived a completely different reality. After serving 18 months for racial discrimination and conspiracy, he was released to find his reputation completely destroyed. No reputable company would hire him. His wife had filed for divorce, taking half their remaining assets. His children changed their surname and refused speaking to him. The man, once vice president of a large corporation, now worked as a used car salesman, earning less annually than Carmen made in 3 months. His racist posts continued circulating online, preventing any attempt to rebuild his image. "Dad Alexander," Elena said during dinner at the new house Alexander bought for them, "the teacher asked us to write about our heroes. Can I write about you?" Alexander felt tears well up. "Elena, the real hero is your mother, who taught you that honesty is worth more than any amount of money." Carmen took Alexander's hand. "No, the hero is the one who had courage to fight when it would have been easier to ignore it." The following week, Alexander received an unexpected call. "Mr. Harrison, this is CNN reporter Michael Torres. I'd like to do a story on how your company became an inclusion model after the Sterling case." The story aired during prime time, showing Elena playing in the office where it all began, Carmen working in her new role, and Alexander explaining how a 6-year-old had changed his view of justice and humanity. Vincent watched the report from his 1-bedroom apartment, drinking alone as he saw his old life thriving without him. He tried calling former colleagues, but they'd all blocked his number. He tried creating new social media profiles, but his racist posts kept resurfacing, haunting him like digital ghosts from his past. 3 years later, on Elena's 10th birthday, Alexander made a special announcement during the party. "Elena Carmen, you've changed my life in ways I can never fully repay. That's why I've created the Elena Gonzalez Educational Fund, providing college scholarships to talented young Black students for the next 50 years. Elena ran to hug him. "Thank you for believing in us when no one else did." That same day, Vincent was trying to get a job at a gas station, but was rejected after the manager Googled his name and found the famous article about racial discrimination. His fall had been so complete and public it became a case study in business schools about how prejudice and arrogance can destroy entire careers. Alexander realized true revenge was never about destroying Vincent. It was about building something bigger than he could ever imagine. He turned an ordinary company into a symbol of social justice, created opportunities for hundreds, and proved that integrity leads to genuine prosperity. "The honesty of a 6-year-old taught me that the best response to hatred is love and action," Alexander said during a speech at Harvard University. Vincent tried to bring us down, but ended up lifting us to heights we never dreamed we could reach. Today, Elena attends prep school bound for Harvard. Carmen has an MBA and is nationally recognized for her innovations in human resources. Alexander has been honored by the government for his contributions to racial equality in corporate environments. Vincent still lives alone, working odd jobs, remembered only as an example of what happens when someone underestimates the power of human decency, combined with determination to do what's right. True justice wasn't Vincent's imprisonment or financial ruin. It was proving that kindness, when protected by strength, builds legacies that inspire generations. If this story of transformation touched your heart, subscribe to the channel to discover more stories proving that doing good is always worth it, even when it seems impossible.